I'm Jennifer Fine. I'm the co-founder of You Live to Travel, and we're the creators of YouLi, which is the best software for organizing group trips. And in today's session, we're going to be focusing really in on integrating with your website, but also touching on some of the new functionality that we've rolled out over the last 6 months, because we know you guys have been maybe a little bit distracted. So this is one of my favorite photos from our trek up Kilimanjaro a couple of years ago. And I feel like it really expresses kind of how the travel industry is feeling right now, is like this guy at the summit sort of lacking in oxygen and sort of questioning our life choices. And, and it can feel really disheartening. But I do believe that a travel boom is coming on the other side of this. We don't know when, and we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we know that the people that are ready for it are going to be able to relaunch their travel brands and satisfy all this pent-up demand. So that's why we're here today, to talk about how software like YouLi can help power that relaunch and enable you to be ready for that travel boom. So YouLi is a platform that brings together a lot of different capabilities all in one place. And here is just a couple of things sort of highlighted. The ability to publish your itineraries for marketing, take bookings on those itineraries, automate email communications around that. Then if you like, publish detailed itineraries for your operational side of things. And of course, document management so that you can collect travel insurance policies and waiver forms and all that good stuff for your liability management. We also add on top of that the ability for you to publish your shop. So that's all your itineraries in one sort of shop view. You can publish things as landing pages. So, look, if your people aren't traveling yet, but you want to promote and collect interest, you can publish these as landing pages. You can get consent from people. Very, very important feature we're going to cover today. You can do add-ons either before the deposit's paid or after the deposit's paid. Upsell that hot air balloon or that single supplement. And of course, we launched a mobile app this year. So we're excited to encourage more of you to get onto Future Ready so you can unlock access to the mobile app. We integrate into your tech stack through to your website, which is what we're going to focus on today, your CRM, your payment gateway. So we connect to Stripe and Square. So you get to keep your money because we don't hold it. It goes straight through to your payment gateway account. And if you still love spreadsheets, you can always download your data. And we integrate with some of the accounting software packages out there. So that's a really high level look of YouLi's capabilities. But today's session, we're going to jump into looking at the trip page. So this is how we deliver all that capability. We are considered a B2B2C platform. So that means we sell to you as businesses, and then you sell on to your customers using our software. And we make it possible for you to publish these pages without writing a single line of code. And they look kind of like this. This is a screenshot, but I'm actually gonna jump in and show you what it looks like for real. So this is an actual trip page, and other people might call it a landing page, a booking page, a sales page, an itinerary. And it's got all the things that you would expect on it. It's got, in this case, there's a finalized price, and there's the highlights, really making you want to go to Bhutan right now. And she also has a detailed itinerary day by day, as well as a breakdown of what's included in the costs and a way to get in touch with her, as well as a detailed map showing all the places that you're going to go. And so that's at the high level what the YouLi platform produces, is trip pages for all of your beautiful itineraries. So now that you've kind of seen what that looks like in that context, the very important question of how do you integrate that with your website? Well, there's two choices. You can either embed, which you can do with WordPress or Squarespace. Those are some of the most popular, but really any of the website builder platforms out there that allow for script embeds. And we do actually do website building. So YouLi Web, if you want to talk to us about that. And actually that's The example we're going to show you today is, so Rare Air Travel, we actually have built their website as well as hosting their trip pages. You can embed your entire shop or a single trip. We're going to walk through those examples now. So just as I jump over here, are there any questions? Okay, good. Everyone's following along. I love it. Okay, so here we are on Rare Air Travel, and you'll notice that the domain, so this is her domain, rareairtravel.com. And you'll notice that back here when I was showing you those trip pages that we host for her, it's trips.rareairtravel.com.au. So this is a subdomain. We call this a white label domain on top of YouLi. You don't have to do this. You can just use it on our domain, and then you just have your branding here in the URL. But if you want to pay a little bit extra, we are very happy to host your white label domain. That can either be a subdomain like this, or it can be a dedicated domain if you have a dedicated domain for your trips. So here you can see on her website, this is the departures page. And so she's got all of her content up here, a testimonial, and then upcoming set departure dates. So now all of that up above was all code on her website. And now this here is all produced by the YouLi platform. And this is what we call her shop. So these are all the trips that she currently has listed and available for people to register and book into. And so the great thing about that is that she put one piece of code on her website, and every time she lists or unlists trips, they appear and disappear from her website automatically. They also disappear from here automatically when they're in the past, so that you don't end up with trips that you can no longer register for. So that's an example of the entire shop. But if you wanted to highlight just kind of one itinerary or one trip, you can actually embed just one at a time. And you'll notice that in this case, it actually takes up the full space. So that's just because it'll take up as much space as you give it on your website. And in this case, it's just linking to an example itinerary. So this isn't a particular set departure date. It's just indicating that it's 7 days and you can express interest in it. So this is that kind of landing page kind of concept that we'll get into a little bit more later. So you'll notice it doesn't have set dates. It just kind of has the highlights and an express interest button that collects registration information. So I want to kind of show you how easy that is to embed. And so I'm just going to jump in here. So this is a website that, just a little demonstration that I've set up. So for those of you familiar with WordPress, this is what it might look like. So I'm editing a page, and I get to kind of drop in different elements. This is your classic WYSIWYG editor. And so here I've actually dropped in some bits of code from the YouLi site. And now I'm just going to show you what that looks like when you actually preview it. Looks like this. So here I am on the page that I've created. I've got my highlighted trips, and I've got one here, and one here. And you'll see they're all different sizes, right? They're all different sizes because I've given them different size boxes. Hold on, just moving my little Zoom thing out of the way. So just jumping back here and showing you, so see how these boxes are all different space, different size that I've given them inside my website builder? That's why they're different sizes. So that's what's really great about the YouLi embed capability, that it will basically take up the space that you give it on your website. And then down below, again, this is that sort of shop look. So this is all the trips that are in my shop, all listed dynamically. So it's really about understanding whether or not you want to kind of highlight something and just call out a single thing and give it very specific space and control exactly how much space it takes on your site. Or if you want to just set and forget, like Rare Air Travel does, and just list all of your trips with one piece of code. So any questions just kind of on a high level of that kind of concept? And do many of you actually manage your own websites and have access to put scripts in, or do you mostly work with developers? I'm seeing some nods, that's good. So this is the way that you embed into your website. And that is different than the other method of integrating with YouLi, which is to link. So we've talked about embedding with script your entire shop or a single trip. But what if you can't do that? So maybe your platform doesn't allow you to, for example. So Wix does not support script embeds. It is just not a feature that they allow. One of the reasons we don't necessarily recommend that platform, but we do know that some people find it nice and easy to use. So in that case, we recommend just linking to your trip pages from various calls to action on your site. And so I'm just going to show you an example of that. So we're going to jump back and look at, so this is Earth and Soul Adventures. And this is their Wix homepage. So they have, you know, your classic homepage stuff. And you'll see that they have buttons throughout and calls to action throughout, driving them to engage with their YouLi trip pages. And so in this case, she's actually linked to her shop. So this is something that every client on YouLi gets by default. It's your shop, it's got your logo, it's got your profile up here. You can configure all this information, and then it has all the trips that you currently have listed on your shop, and also includes past trips in case you want to showcase the things that you've done. So this is the exact same content that would be embedded on your website if you could use that script. And so here you can see she's got 3 of those, and then you click into any one of those and you get to the trip pages that have all of the details. And as you can see, you can embed videos on there as well. So this has, you know, the disadvantage that, of course, you're sort of sending them to a middle page. So they're clicking into that, clicking one more step. But it can also be a good way to really simplify the integration. So anyone, even if you are using one of the other platforms, anyone can use the link approach to integration. So that's always an option. And you can, of course, link directly to the trip pages from various landing pages on your site. So if you want to do a special landing page and you want to have the Book Now button linked directly to YouLi, then that is, you know, the easiest integration that you can do with YouLi. So let me just show you how you grab those links. Let me just get into, so here. So on your YouLi dashboard, you'll see all of your trips. And if you click on the little share trip link icon on any of your trips, you can immediately grab your public link. So this is how you're going to grab the link if you just want to have a call to action on your website and just link straight through to it. And you can actually check this wonderful box, which means that the minute you click on it, it pops up a registration box. So if you've already convinced them on your website and you just want YouLi to capture their registration information and then start pushing them through the, you know, the flow to pay deposits and complete tasks, then you want to check that box. So depending on what you want, you check or don't check that. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you can watch the video after this call. So you just jump in and watch that. And you can also understand more about how all of these share links work by watching these videos. Or you can come in and click on the Integrate with Website tab. And this is where the lovely little website snippet embed code lives. And so you can copy it for just the one trip, like I showed you, or for all trips. And that's that difference between the sort of one by one, like I did here, versus all trips in that shop. So So now you understand where that code came from, right? So that code's different than that code, than that code, than that code. And that all comes from, my Zoom keeps getting in my way. And that all comes from this section on the site. All right, I'm just gonna pause and check and see if we have any questions. Does it integrate with Facebook events pages? Nathan, that's a great question. So, so integrating with Facebook events, you'd basically make the ticket link would be the link to your page. And in that case, you would absolutely want to do that. So you would want to check the box so that as soon as they click through, it immediately pops up to register them. And then from there, it allows them to add to calendar and things like that. And then the other question, yeah, so Sandeep is asking about, is it possible to show the itinerary and do a calendar selective date? That is, that's something you can do in a couple of different ways. So you can either set them as estimated dates and then ask them and then create that itinerary for them based on the dates that they select. And you can do that either with group trips or you can do that with quotes. And the other question, do you know when inventory will be added? Yeah, so, oh, so many good questions. So in terms of doing the max number, so you currently don't have the ability to sort of hard restrict people's access to it. So you can't set a max number on the trip, but you can close registrations. So if you do hit your maximum, you can click in and close your trip. And once you've closed the trip, then no one will be able to register. So you would just set it here and you would just set your close date to be yesterday. It'll close that. And then you can say registration, you know, this trip is now full. Please check out my shop for other events. And then you can link that to your shop. And so you can just click that and add that link in there. So that's one of the ways that you can close registrations for various reasons. And so Michelle is asking this question. So show registration checkbox means that they're signing up for the trip or to receive the trip outline. Now that's a really great question. So let's get into that topic actually now. So, you know, once you've sort of integrated your site, or as you're thinking about integration and like, what is the right way? Should I embed it? Should I link it? How much do I do on my website? How much do I build into trip pages? You have to ask yourself whether or not your customer journey is kind of a landing pages journey, which is more about collecting registrations and collecting interest versus a booking page where you're converting them, you know, you're sort of driving them to say, yes, I want this thing, I will put money down on it. And the language that you use is quite different, even though we call those trip pages. So both of those are delivered using our trip page concept. And what you do is just change the way that you set that up. So in the landing page concept, you would collect consent, but you would sort of only show highlights of that and maybe estimated dates. And to Sandeep's question, you know, you would put estimated dates and kind of ask them when they want to go. You'd put maybe an estimated price to say, oh, you know, it starts at this, but it depends on what you end up choosing. And then you can actually convert those to booking pages once somebody is ready, you know, once you sort of got to the point where, you know, the government is letting you fly there. And so you can set your departure dates. You know how much it's going to cost, so you can finalize your price. And so in terms of whether or not the show registration checkbox means that they're signing up for the trip or just signing up to get more information, that has to do with how you build the content of your landing page. So what do you tell them is going to happen? Are you telling them that by registering for this, you're just asking for more information? Or are you telling them by registering for this, you are saying, I want to go? And that's why we make it possible for you to completely control that language on your trip page. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So just going to pull up. So here's an example from a client, Global Family Travels. So they focus on family experiences, but also cultural experiences. And they have an event in Seattle. So they're Seattle based, and so they're focusing on domestic experiences right now. So you'll notice this is just a one-day event, and the price is contact us, right? And so here it says register me. And so here, all of this, so the register me content, the content that appears here, this is all customizable by you when you're setting up your trip pages. So if you want them to feel like they're holding a spot, you should say to them, register to hold your spot. If you want them to understand that they're just asking for information and they're not getting anything more than just information, you can say register below to get more information. And so it's up to you to set the expectations about what does registration mean for this traveler or this person booking into your event. So here you can see that Global Family Travels is actually noted, please note your spot will only be confirmed after a deposit has been paid. So they're making it clear that registration is only the first step and they must complete deposit after they register. So it's important that you set the right expectations, and that's why we've created the space for that. So Stephanie is asking a great question, which is, can you run a 7-day retreat that departs on the first Monday of every month? And so what you would do is you just recreate. So you would copy your event each time, each week. And that's actually because quite often every single one of them is different. So sure, maybe you run it every week or maybe you run it every month, but the reality is you're always going to be tweaking things. You're always going to be changing things. And so you'll want to make a new copy each time and then adjust from there. But of course, if you're not making any changes, it's just a copy and then you get going right away. So this is an example of, kind of that estimated dates and times and things like that. But they do set the expectation that there will be money expected once registration goes through. But it's not currently a booking page, right? Because there's no set price, because it says contact us for pricing. So when registration happens, they won't be immediately prompted for payment. However, on this page, so this is Best Life Adventures. They're an Australian adventure company, and they are promoting a trip to Africa. Now, this is in July of 2021, and there is a finalized price. And so that means when they click to register, and when they go through to the next step, it will prompt them to pay a deposit. So in this case, and it says register below to get access to your tasks and payment options. So it makes it clear that your next step, you're going to be prompted to pay. And one more example. Oh, actually, just a really quick one on this. He does a great job of embedding the videos there and showing, at a high level, kind of what's happening day by day, what camps you're staying at, what kind of treks you're doing. And he also has an add-on. So I just wanted to highlight this here. So this add-on, the Massaggio camp, and so they can add that on for an extra $17.40. So it's very clear here. Now you don't have to pick that before you register, and actually that's really important. Registering is something that we make really easy, so you can capture their information and you can follow up with them. So that way you don't end up kind of forcing people to make decisions that they're not sure about before they give you their contact information. So that's why our registration forms are so simple. And that's why we actually encourage you to do your complicated forms after registration. And that's something that we do using the task module in the YouLi platform, which we're not going to get into today, but would love to do a webinar later on. So, okay, we're going to just jump into one more example here, and that's similar to, sorry, I had made some changes, so it's just telling me I need to refresh to see the most recent changes. So here I can see in Best of Morocco, it's 10 days. This does have a set departures and it's prompting, in this case, to book now. So you notice that all these pages use a different call to action. What is the right call to action? Well, isn't that the eternal question? We find that a lot of people like to use the word book now when they are expecting immediate payment. And they like to use express interest if they're just collecting kind of registrations, and it's more of a landing page. It's more about building your email list than it is about actually selling a specific trip. And so you really need to decide what that call to action needs to be. Now, I'm just going to jump back in and make sure I'm covering everything here. So just, the distinction between being a landing page and a booking page is actually about language, in terms of, that call to action, like whether or not you say express interest or you say book now. But it's also about whether or not you've set departure dates versus estimated dates, whether or not you finalized your price or estimated your price. But in either case, you definitely want to be collecting consent. Is it possible to do the three? Sorry, I'm just looking at a question from Sandeep here. Is it possible to do the 3 call to action, query, register, book now? In that case, what I would suggest is that you actually started as a with express interest, and then from there you would actually the next step is to pay now, and it prompts you based on that. So it's really, again, it's kind of the way that you want to word it. So you did notice actually Best Life Adventures uses register instead of book now, even though the next step is to pay because the price is finalized. And so he's doing kind of what you're talking about there, which is you register your interest and then it prompts you to pay. And I will, actually, I'll just take you through that flow and you can see how that looks. So let me show you, and I'll do it in the context of consent as well. So here we are. Let's say that actually said express interest. And actually, let me just go ahead and do that for you right now. We're going to change this to say express interest. And we're going to change that call to action, right? So now we're going to refresh this page. Now this is the public page that I'm looking at here. Now this bar across the top, that's actually my control bar as a YouLi planner. This won't be visible to the actual end user. They'll just see everything below the black bar. So they see that part and they see your company logo there. So now we click express interest, and one thing you'll see here is there's this consent terms basically at the bottom, and you'll notice that I can't uncheck that box. So this is what we call inferred consent. So it's basically saying that when you click this button to register, you are agreeing to be bound by the terms and conditions that are linked here. Now, that works in some jurisdictions, but it doesn't work in all of them. So in many places with stricter privacy laws, you actually need to get what's called explicit consent. And so we're just going to jump back in and change that from inform for inferred consent to require action for explicit consent. So by checking the box, I agree to be bound by, and then linking off to your terms and conditions. Some people write very long, things here, like you can put your, cancellation policy. You can, only for adults over the age of 16. So whatever your legal advisors tell you needs to be in this block, you can put that into this block. And so we're not legal advisors, so we can't tell you what should go here, but we have given you the box to do it. So And of course, here's another lovely video to watch if you need a refresher after this. Now we're just going to jump back in and we're going to refresh this page. And now we see, okay, so now it's changed. So now instead of it being checked by default because it's inferred consent, it is now explicit consent. And so if I type in fine, and I click this button, it's going to say, oh, no, you have to consent. So this actually requires them to check this box explicitly. So they can't say, oh, I just clicked and didn't read. They have to explicitly check that box. And so that's just a bit of a stricter obligation. Oh yeah, and that's because I've already registered for this trip. So I'll do this again. That's just a little bit of security to make sure that you can't hijack somebody else's registration. But we're just gonna register as another person. Okay, so here we are, and we've come to the next step, which is now it's gonna prompt. So Sandeep was asking about changing the buttons. Well, notice that the button has changed, and now it says your deposit is due on the 29th of August. This is based on the configuration of this booking page to require deposits be paid by August 29th. So now when I click to view payment options, it takes me here, it shows me my name and says, here's your base cost and here are your add-ons. And so this is where you can add on my extra cooking class. And hey, look, I'm registering early enough, I can even get my early bird discount. That will get closed off on October 1st automatically, and it will appear there, but not be selected or selectable. And so from here, they can choose to either pay the deposit or pay the balance due. And then you control all the options that they are given here. So on our Future Ready package, you can do credit cards. And on our higher packages, you can also turn on direct bank transfer to give them instructions to do transfers, mail you a check, that kind of thing, or even pay over the phone. So that's the process to get them to kind of go from, you know, expression of interest. Now, like if they don't pay here, you've captured their contact information. And based on the settings for the deposit, we will actually send them automated reminders to push them through that journey to go from expression of interest through to paying of deposit. Once they've paid their deposit, we're going to start prompting them to complete all of the things that you've assigned to them as tasks. Yes, Michelle is asking, does Future Ready allow us to take credit card payments? It does. It is a no YouLi booking fee on the first trip and then a 2% YouLi booking fee on all your trips after that. So it's just really to get you going. So Future Ready is a great way to build all your landing pages and set up your booking pages to get ready for when you start taking payments. And but then once you are really kind of back up and running and our travel boom is hitting, you're most likely going to want to upgrade to one of our more premium packages to reduce your booking fee from 2% down to 0%. And of course, you're always still paying any merchant fees with the credit card companies, which is why we offer these alternatives in case you want to do direct bank transfers or any of the other many payment methods that are out there that might give you a better rate than the credit card. But of course, credit cards are still very popular, so you pretty much always have to offer that to your travelers as one of the options. Let's just jump back and make sure I've covered. So we talked about collecting consent, whether you're doing landing pages or booking pages, really important. If it's just a landing page, you're really collecting consent around privacy policy. But especially if you're expecting to take bookings either now or in the future, you really want your cancellation policy to be clear. Especially if you're doing no refunds on deposits, you want that to be an explicit consent and very visible. From Nathan, does it allow you to pass the credit card fees on to the buyer to invest? Yes, it does. So that's a great question. I'll just jump in and show you. I should save my changes. So if I just jump into my pricing, then I can actually pass on that credit card fee. And yes, it will make that distinction. So if I say I'm going to pass on a 2% credit card surcharge, now that's something you have to decide for your business. It is a bit of a complicated calculation based on legal advice and all that good stuff. But you know, you do your best you can in terms of passing on a surcharge, and then it looks like this. So now you can see 2% surcharge, and when you select it, it adds the $12 fee. But if they choose the other one, the $12 fee is not there. So that allows you to pass those fees through to your travelers and kind of push them towards the payment method that you prefer. And oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you for answering that, Vika. Yes, you can link to the terms that live on your website. Absolutely. And that's actually what we recommend because obviously, you know, proper terms and conditions are big documents. So you don't want to put all of them in that little box. So great question from Priscilla. Okay. So let's just make sure we've covered everything there. Yeah, in terms of like the sort of detailed itinerary, this is a conversation that comes up a lot, like whether or not you just kind of provide this, this sort of high level kind of day one, day two kind of thing, or, you know, how detailed do you want to be? Like, you know, how much information do you want to include the specific accommodations in there? You know, do you want to kind of break things down so that people can see like 8 a.m. breakfast, you know, and that's really a debate that's kind of up to you. And this is why we've actually allowed you to control whether or not you even show the detailed itinerary. So if you're doing a landing page, maybe even just a booking page, you might just turn off the itinerary. So notice here you can control how many of the left-hand menus are available. And that includes, you can show who else is registered for that. If it's a group trip, and especially if they know each other, that can be nice to show who else is going. But we understand for privacy reasons, a lot of people choose to hide that. And then of course, tasks and resources, as well as your contact information. So let's take the example of hiding the itinerary. Then you'll see that when you refresh the page, that I only get my highlights. So in this case, I've called it a schedule. You can relabel that to be overview, highlights, schedule. Some people even relabel this main page, what we call highlights. They call it the itinerary, and they just do the day by day. So that's really up to you and your business. Some people feel the more details you give people, the harder it is to deliver on expectations. Some people feel like they need to give people really detailed itineraries. And so the platform is flexible to allow you to do either of those, and also change as you go along. So you can start with a landing page that's just these items shown as highlights. So this is the option to show these things on highlights. So you'll see some of these are shown on the highlights page and some of them aren't. If they're not shown on the highlights page, then when you turn off itinerary, they disappear. So this can be really great if you, for example, right now, you just want to sell the dream, right? So you put out a landing page that has the highlights, the really high level version of the itinerary, and you hide the detailed itinerary menu option altogether. But you're building it here behind the scenes, like you're adding it in, and you know what these things are going to be. Like maybe, you know, you're thinking the accommodation is going to be this riad, but you don't want to display it until you've actually locked it in and you know that that riad is, you know, still going to be taking bookings when you're ready to go. So that's what's really great about these pages, is that, you know, you've seen how quickly I can change this, right? So again, it's a no code website type of situation where I can just go tick some boxes, change some text, and suddenly this page is changing. And that means you can start with a page that's really high level, and then as you go along, you can add more and more details to it. And what you'll see here is that I registered and now this is my page. So now I'm seeing a version that's for me. So when I complete my tasks, when I make my payments, I will actually see my version of this page. Whereas if Rebecca registers for this trip, she's going to see her version of this page. And so it's constantly driving me back to make my payments, to complete my tasks. And so as you change things, you can prompt them and message them to come back and take a look at the things that you've changed, because it's for them. And you can even put in personalized items. So for example, if I ask for something special, you can actually add something to my itinerary that no one else in the group can see. So that's getting into some more personalization stuff. But just making sure I've covered everything on here. Oh yeah, and the add-ons. So, you know, being able to make things optional, either they are optional as in just, hey, there's a casual dinner kind of thing, or optional as in it's an add-on that's prepaid prior to the trip. And so you can choose when you're adding these itinerary items to make them optional with a price that's sort of set. You check it and then you pay on the page, or make it optional and just say, hey, you know, pay at the restaurant. But you're just collecting whether or not people are actually going to come for that event. And so you can make it optional, but not take payment on the page. So that's a really lovely advanced feature that you can use for either type of page, either landing or booking. But to be honest, landing pages, you typically are going to keep it really simple. You're probably going to turn off most of the menu items and just make it clear that you're collecting interest, and you'll be in touch with them when you're ready to make that trip live, or when it's safe to travel again. Whereas booking pages, that's when you start getting down into those, you know, well, there's an optional dinner here, and there's an extension here, and you start to use those add-ons to upsell people onto more expensive packages. All right, just gonna check back on the chat. Yes, you can create forms, and that's within the task system. That's a good question from Priscilla. And then on the same trip, can I show level 4 hotel pricing and have an option to upsell? Yes, so absolutely. You can, in the case where you have kind of a base 4-star option, then you would finalize your price with that as the hotel. And then you would have an add-on, which would be, you know, upgrade to 5-star, and then whatever that extra price is, and that can be per person. And you can actually do little subgroups. So people can do invitation groups where they're registering for a couple, for example. And that's one of our advanced features. But just before we get into that, I did want to quickly cover off kind of payment methods, which we talked about a little bit, but I did just want to cover really quickly. When you connect your Stripe or Square account, so when you sign up to YouLi, one of the first things you want to do is connect your Stripe account. If you're not a fan of Stripe and you prefer Square, just open a support ticket and we'll enable Square for you, and you can connect your Square account. This is your reputation. This is your account, and we're merely sending bookings through to you on it. So these fees can vary depending on your country and your reputation and how much volume you send through. I highly recommend you negotiate if you are high volume to get a better rate on those credit card transactions. The money often settles in 3 to 7 days unless there's any kind of dispute. So as long as you have an account in with a good reputation, you should see that money settling right away. And that is available on Future Ready. So that's really important that we don't hold your money. If you upgrade to one of our premium packages like Crew, then we also allow you to enable these other methods like bank transfer, PayPal, phone, and even other booking pages. So if you are really attached to an existing booking platform that you already have, or it's part of some sort of system that you cannot change, you can actually just add that as a link, send people off to it, and then that gets recorded on that page, and then they can proceed to complete their tasks and and keep up with their itinerary on their trip page. So that's the great thing about the sort of other methods, but of course, credit card's the most common one. So that's why that's the one that's included in Future Ready. And what I might do, so then just thinking about the advanced features that we sort of have, I'm just conscious of time. We have a number of things that we could really dig into. I think based on the questions, I might actually jump into custom forms a bit and show you that. So let me just get that set up. Actually, you know what? I'm just looking at the time and realizing that we're probably going to run out of that. So Priscilla, I think what I'll do is we'll probably run another webinar where we get into the tasks subsystem and show you how there's like preset forms to collect passports, but also you can create your own completely custom forms like health questionnaires or any kind of pre-trip form information that you might want to collect.